Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to what I believe is episode 34 of the Mimic Commentary. This episode is available for Tier 1 Mimic Scholars. Just as a reminder, future episodes will be for Tier 2, which is Silver Tier and above, for early access until they're released to the public. But I wanted to make this one available for everybody, just as, or I guess for Tier 1. Kind of like to do a little bit of like a light apology for episode, specifically I think episode 33 and a little bit of episode 31. I think I may have been a little too forthcoming on some things, and it may have made people a little bit too uncomfortable. My goal has always been to make you all a little uncomfortable, but I don't want to make you too uncomfortable. There was kind of this, like, in case you haven't watched those episodes yet, I share a lot of personal information in those, specifically with the things that directly impact my mental health. And I just wanted to kind of address that up front right now. And, you know, it's important, I think, for the series moving forward, that you know where my perspective comes from, because it's going to inform a lot of the commentary that I make, outside of just, you know, my knowledgeability on George R. R. Martin and Hidetaka Miyazaki. And I also want to thank everyone who left really nice comments, and then the people who also left feedback for episode 33. I will, in the future, make explicit warnings if I talk about topics like that, because I really wasn't considering how it could be making others feel, and you know, that's on me. So again, this is it's all very new territory for me, and I'm just going to talk like you've seen those episodes, like just real quick before we talk about the levels and you know, back to Elden Ring lore and what have you. The concept of recovering memories, which is relevant for Elden Ring. It's the concept of recovering memories. It almost changes what your reality is, so to say. Like if you watch chapter 1, I talk about it. I talk about it briefly, but the fact that essentially my perception of the world and myself has fundamentally changed over the past year based on new memories, or I guess recovering old memories. You know, it's kind of, you know, for a time it's a bit scary, but it's very enlightening, not just for, you know, it's kind of enlightening for the story of Elden Ring, but also, like, you know, my sense of self and as a person. With that being said, if you hadn't watched last episode, we went to Round Table Hold. I opened the gate. We went to the Round Table Hold, and the big thing that we talked about is, you know, we were able to get some of the Black Flame incantations, and I mentioned that my very first theories for Elden Ring was the nature of Black Flame. You know, we're gonna go back on track and back with the rules. I was kind of bending the rules a little bit in the last episode, but it's very weird that Flame Sling and Black Flame are the exact same shape. You can actually, so it's hard, maybe I can try and direct your eyes. If you look towards the very center of Black Flame, and then you just move your eyes to the right and then down just a little bit, you'll see a short line and then a long line, a little white there. And if we look at the fireball, you could see that all these kind of like flecks are in Flame Sling. You could see like a lot of these flecks are in about the same position. Like Flame Sling and Black Flame are practically identical, except that Black Flame is missing a lot of its coloration. And, you know, if we recall, very weird that this little silver tear is a creature of mimicry. So the theme I think I want to go for this build is, I think I want to go with a Black Flame build, but, you know, we might actually go with a Fundamentalist build. We'll see where it goes. What's very interesting about coming into Stormveil like this is they the exiled soldiers are essentially waiting for a tarnished. There's a lot of preparedness that someone is going to come through the main gate and storm the castle. I don't know if it's a specific thing for our tarnished. I like to think that when we find kind of like this type of, guard, it could just be constant, what do you call it? Constant reinforcements for the main castle because there is active war going on. However, the last battle of the Shattering, as we know, is... Oh, goodness gracious, a lot of these guys. The last battle of the Shattering is in Caelid. So there hasn't really been many active engagements, and I don't really think we find any active fighting throughout. We will in Liurnia. That's still a contested area. But I don't think we will find it. I don't think we find it anywhere else. Oh, I'm getting rocked. Oh, is this our first time getting exiled hood? Deep red hood that covers the whole head, worn by soldiers sent to penal colonies who are required to keep their faces hidden. And, as we recall, we're saying these are Sunrealm soldiers who, they lost. It's Erd Tree time. You know the deal. Let's go take our detour. We have over here, look at that, we got a lion. This makes a lot of sense. Why would Godric have a lion here? He's obviously active, trying to evoke that Sirach imagery. When we get close to him, I think it's pretty common knowledge that these are most likely from the Colosseums because of how they're chained, how they have the sword blades on their arms. The nearest Colosseum is, right over here. I won't talk about what's happening over there. We also have our kind of like our, I don't know if we call these Erd Tree Sentinels, but, we have our Tree Knights. There is one there's a giant one here at the Chapel of Anticipation. On the outside of this building, let's see if we have anything fun and interesting here. Well, we have that obvious kind of like that Norman architecture. I think we could see these are supposed to be like this tower right here and that tower right here. They have the same base, but we have kind of that like gold added to the top. I think someone, I don't know who it was, maybe it was Scum Mage Infa theorized that maybe it was to keep the birds off. I kind of just think it's very similar to what they do at Edinburgh Castle, where they just added like some ornamentation like hundreds of years afterwards. All right, let's go fight this lion. Let's hope my socks don't get rocked. I guess we could pop Oleg, and yeah, we'll drink up. He also has horns cut, connection to the Crucible, as in he has, what I would say would be Crucible genetics. I don't know if we have much information on that right now, but part of picking the prophet classes, I kind of forget what is learned and then what is my opinions. So that's just the deal. Hit him with some black flame, and then let's get a lion's claw on him. Yeah, he did his own lion's claw on me. I think we'll get a Crucible. Somber Smithing Stone, Beast Blood, Old Fang. Yeah, so we get confirmation. Perhaps they're a vestige of the Primordial Crucible. Got the Beast Blood, clinting with gold, never rots to decay. The interesting one is the Somber Smithing Stones. So, since the Somber Smithing Stones, they have this colorless aspect to them, we don't really have much on the way of our mimic knowledge yet. But generally, when I see something drop a Somber Smithing Stone, I kind of lead to the perspective, like, why did that lion have a Somber Smithing Stone? Oh, I'm just running around. I'm looking for Trina lilies. I don't have a map or anything up right now. Ah, there it is. I knew that was here. Here's our Trina lily. Now, when we think of Trina, when I think of Saint Trina, you know, we've talked before. She is the saint of sleep, and she visits people in their dreams. If Saint Trina wanted to communicate with us, how would she communicate with us? And I think it would be through, you know, matters of gameplay, luring us somewhere and then making us like think and listen. When we stand in this spot particularly, we have clear sight of the hooded statue. But instead of holding a sword, he's holding a book. Now, I think we can... I think it kind of makes it clear, and we'll see more of these statues throughout the castle. Let's see. Is there one on this side as well? Yeah, both with the books, and then here with the sword and the book. Is that supposed to be... Oh, this kind of looks like it's copied from the elevators, like, later on. Then Banished Knight's armor. Yeah. So, you know, I've theorized. Now, we can't do this in pieces, so I'm just going to use a little prophetic power, because it's going to be hard to come back to these places and kind of recognize where we saw these things. So since we picked the prophet class, you know, we're going to bend the rules just a little bit. And we are going to say that this is the hooded Ratigan. You know, we don't know much about Ratigan. You know, so far we only have Ratigan's scar seal. He's a very unknown character to us. So we won't dwell too much on the details, but you know, I will say that when we see the Ratigan statues, he has the lattice behind him. These statues do not. But we have the learning. He has a book. He's very learned, and then he has a sword. He's a warrior. Entering here, we have this similar, like, Stormveil type of imagery. Kind of has, like, the beast at the end. Our Banished Knights, and then our Great Tree or Erd Tree banners. Hard to say which. I think there was something in here I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so this is something Imtha showed me. He does a lot of like free cam and looking into the architecture and connecting them all throughout the world. And he's found like this everywhere and this everywhere. And I wanted to just like use this area as an example. We can also see the carvings of the lion in here. So I think we could, let me stay on track. So if we were going to date this place, if we were going to give this a date, you know, when was Stormveil built? Well, Stormveil, probably a very old castle, but it has a lot of things added to it. So it's hard to date it exactly. And I want to give the example of like Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a lot of architecture that evokes ancient Rome. If I was an alien and I came to planet Earth and I was just going to try and figure out how old places were just based on their architecture, that would be very difficult because you would find these destroyed ruins in Greece that are hundreds to thousands of years old. And then the Roman Empire expands. You have I think like Hadrian's Wall between England and Scotland. I think that was also built by the Roman Empire, and that's just kind of like a brick wall between, you know, one area. And then you go to Washington, D.C., and then you see this similar kind of like marbled pillars that you might see in Athens. And if I was an alien and I was just looking at the architecture, I'd be like, wow, this civilization, this culture expanded all the way from this region on one side of the world all the way to this other region. But, you know, obviously that's not true. They're just trying to evoke something older. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because a lot of the cultures that we'll find within Elden Ring and within the lands between, they are essentially just evoking older cultures that don't mean that they necessarily have a direct relationship or connection to. You know, it doesn't have to be the same people or the same lineage trying to evoke that type of culture through their architecture. We'll see this more when we take a trip down the well We'll do the well after we finish Stormveil Castle. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up now. Doing the architecture stuff is a lot of fun, and it is very useful, but you don't want to get too, I would warn getting too caught up for trying to analyze the kind of like the nature of things within Elden Ring, because you are going to find a lot of overlap everywhere, and generally it's kind of, I think it's based on the idea that, all of these cultures essentially have a similar starting point. And if you've watched my channel enough, that similar starting point is outer space. Also, I actually just noticed this too. We could see on the shields right here, like right there, that's the same design on the rugs. So, all connected. And this guy, whoever he may be, Radagon, he had his statues built up here. We're going to find these throughout Stormveil, but we mainly find this on the Saints Bridge and towards this tower. And it's probably good for me to... Oh, how many golden seeds do we have? 3. I think I can upgrade the flask without losing the golden seed. If you recall, I want to make sure I always have a golden seed on hand so we can refer to it. Okay, there we go. How many do we need? 2, so we're going to get 2 more for that. And I don't want to use my sacred tears. Let's do 4 and 3. So this guy, whoever he may be, we haven't seen any of his statues throughout Stormveil yet until we get to this area. The banners from the outside were the Stormhawk kind of banners, like those banners. But coming this way, we get the tree banner. So we can kind of date that this area was built when this thing was in power. So we're getting 2 different kind of like generations here. More of the tree and the book. So, to me, this is indicating whoever this guy is, and whenever this stuff was built, it was for learning about this place. And we got our Bolt Drake Talisman. We've read this enough before, but again, I think it's supposed to be indicating that mostly this region is firmly a ancient dragon worshipping region. Now, it's not worth going this way. It's something interesting. I've noticed... that's cool that it tells it's Stormhill. Wow, these statues are huge there. Oh, look, the Erdtree's kind of transparent until we zoom in. Is that on purpose? I think it's on purpose. Yeah, now they're going to stand up. I thought they were always standing up until you defeated Godric. These guys, I think, are supposed to kind of like be the indication that don't go this way. And we're not going to yet. There's 3 of them. We'll come here when we need to. And we'll talk about them when it's time to talk about them. I kind of wanted to, while we fight these enemies again, I kind of wanted to talk about, I shared personal information, specifically about my mental health and about the traumas that I faced. And one of the things that I was thinking about when I was reflecting on those 2 videos was if you learned that Hidetaka Miyazaki, there's so much work online trying to figure out what is going on in these games. Some of it, I think, is a bit egregious with the efforts that they take to learn what is exactly happening in these stories. Oh, geez Louise. If you could learn that something horrible befell Hidetaka Miyazaki, and that's what informed his creative decisions, would you want to know that, and would it be relevant? A lot of people do Death of the Author, but I know that there is a lot of, there's a lot of very popular creators who like to, or I don't want to say creators, there's a lot of popular people who do lore and story analysis for these games, who like to explicitly bring up what the references are to external media and influences to try and get a better understanding. And if you could learn that about Hidetaka Miyazaki, if you could learn about more of his childhood, would you want to? And how would that improve your understanding? Oh, more Trina lilies. Whoa, 2 more. Okay. Is this like because it's a safe spot? How would that impact your understanding to the art that the art that he creates? We'll pick these up. I guess we can pick these up now. What's the look and listen here for these Trina lilies? I'm kind of getting like, this is the reward. You found like a safe spot. And the reason I posit that question is because I was just reflecting on who Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R. R. Martin are as people. If you watched the Neverending Story videos, both of them start with talking about their childhoods and how they influence them as authors. We have the Arbalist, large crossbow made from composite materials, one of the largest of bolt-firing devices. Its limbs are more pliable than metallic ones, allowing bolts fired from this weapon to pierce even helms forged of steel. Oh, and before I forget, the thumbnail might look a little funny or a little weird. It's kind of just like a joke. I'm just trying to let you know that it's more levity in this. There's more levity in this this video than the previous videos. If you were kind of like taken off guard by that stuff, I was reflecting on who they are, especially since that they, their childhoods are incredibly meaningful to how they do their stories. The famous story of Miyazaki not being able to understand English that well, so that's why his stories have missing details. Okay, so George R. R. Martin has no children. He's married and he has a few cats, but he has no children. Hidetaka Miyazaki, I think, has 2 children now. I'm not sure when they were born, but I think between like Sekiro and Elden Ring, I think he has a son and a daughter, if I recall correctly. I'd have to get confirmation, but I think that's the case. And I think we see a change in the direction of his art because of that. Because he became a father. Demon Souls he picked up when it was already in production, and it allowed him to, take a lot of control over it. It wasn't all his original ideas, obviously, because someone else had the project before he did. And a lot of the most unique things about Demon Souls are essentially its gameplay. A lot of the concepts, however, within it are essentially just Berserk. Like, that is the most Berserk game he's ever made. How the magic works, the old one, many of the characters, and a lot of the philosophy, it's straight up Berserk. Dark Souls gets a little bit more unique, and then it starts kind of dwelling into themes kind of about, like, I think the major themes for Dark Souls is essentially light and dark. Going over humanity. Every human has this darkness inside of them, and it's kind of like this choice, this ebb and pull between how dark someone will be and how light someone will be, and that the gods of the world are essentially those with the most light. Dark Souls 2, when it originally came out, I was an OG Dark Souls 2 hater, and after playing Elden Ring, I've kind of had I have more of an appreciation for it. But it kind of, I think, makes sense why someone else had to take that project, because it has to kind of do with a lot of the sense of self thematically. That's like the big things that it deals with, loss of sense of self, and changing over to a separate director seems appropriate for that. Dark Souls 3 kind of it expands on the ideas of Dark Souls 1, but I think its main themes are probably stagnation and decay, and then maybe new beginnings with the DLC. Bloodborne is kind of like the most overt, and this is where I kind of mentioned like egregious trying to figure out what's going on. Bloodborne is one of those games where I think you don't really need to understand exactly what's going on. That is kind of like a very much a symbolic imagery game. Like that, the symbolism is kind of more important than the actual what is happening. I also think it might be one of the more straightforward games to know exactly what's happening. Oh, I never noticed their ribs there. Which might sound weird, but it's there's a church, they find blood, it's blood of gods, and they use it, and then bad stuff happens. I don't know. It doesn't really seem that complex. I think people get a little too caught up in the nature of these like otherworldly beings. But since he's had children, Sekiro, we're going to pick this up for in a second, but I just kind of want to finish this idea. Sekiro dwells on Wolf is essentially like an older brother figure. He has Owl, who is his father figure, and then he has Kuro, who is kind of like, I don't know if he's a father figure to him. He kind of gives me older brother vibes, but it's a child that he has to look after. There's actually 2 children he has to look after. And then Elden Ring focuses a lot with memories and remembering, kind of like inviting us to look back. And I just see this change in him as a person based on when he has his children, because Elden Ring is while it delves deep into a lot of what I think are dark topics, they're kind of like masqueraded into a very cartoonish like veneer. Obviously, this right here, this is very gross and gruesome. If we were going to think about what we are actually looking at here, it's quite disturbing imagery. What this exactly is. This is very gross and disturbing. And since it's gross and disturbing, I kind of want to bring it back to what we're going to pick up. Stormveil Castle is a very dangerous place. There's a lot of people here who want to kill us. And this is where we found the memento. Yet, we have the Crimson Hood. A hooded cloak of vivid crimson, worn by expatriated royalty. Increases vigor. Such cloaks were gifted to those who departed on journeys without specific orders, to faraway lands from which they would never return. In other words, the gift of a cloak made it easier for undesirables to be on their way. Roderika never once saw the guidance of grace. So this is firmly Roderika's cloak. Its location here shows us that Roderika came back to Stormveil Castle. Actually, this is her first time foraying in Stormveil Castle. She was in Stormhill Shack. She was afraid to come here. In the Round Table Hold, she doesn't have her hood anymore after she learns how to do spirit healing. So she came back here. She came to Stormveil Castle. After she became a spirit tuner, she gained the confidence to trek through Stormveil and then leave her hood with the corpses of the men who were grafted as a sign of respect. The interesting notes that we have here. So, gifted to those who depart on journeys without specific orders to faraway lands from which they would never return. And they're expatriated royalty. Essentially, these are, I would assume that these are like, you're a royal family, you got a lot of heirs, you got a lot of kids, send some of them off to the lands between. Put them on a boat, go figure it out. Just, find the lands between. She also had a golden seed, which kind of ties into, as we talked in the last episode, one of the origin gifts, keepsakes, is you can have a seed that washed up on the shore from the lands between. So, as I see Roderika, she is a noble from some royal family outside the lands between, who has lineage tied to the lands between. Later in the game, just like Hoslow. I can actually see on there's a little flower on a pin, and we have the little gem in the center. I don't know if that's supposed to be similar to... I don't know if those are the same color. That's obsidian. Is that also obsidian? Is it? Is that obsidian? I'm colorblind, so you guys are going to have to help me out there. I think it's the same. So if it's the same, we're getting a little Black Flame Godskin stuff going on with Roderika, which is going to make sense when we learn more information about that. But the most interesting thing about this hood, in other words, the gift of the cloak made it easier for undesirables to be on their way. Yeah, so even though she's part of a royal family, I imagine it's like, you got too many cousins, send them off to the lands between, Most likely you're not going to make it, whatever. Roderika never once saw the guidance of grace. So she is a tarnished who's never seen guidance, and yet she was sent to the lands between. Most tarnished who see guidance, they are revived in the lands between, but she and her men physically trekked here. She was also able to get to the Round Table Hold. To her, she says it's the covert headquarters of the Two Fingers. Which, it's kind of interesting because it is, but it isn't. I think Roderica is a little bit confused on where she actually is, and we'll see that later on. We'll see that later on why I think she's a little confused on where exactly she is. She's right that is where they are, but not really. I also think that the reason why she might be able to get to the Round Table Hold without seeing Grace most likely is due to her connection, her lineage of having some royalty being connected to blood lineage, her being able to be a spirit tuner. I think that kind of like informs how she is able to interact without seeing the guidance of Grace, how she's able to interact with Grace in such a way that she can. Sorry, I just got a text from my wife that was kind of concerning me, so I lost my train of thought. What was I? Oh, yeah. So her being able to see, she doesn't see the guidance of Grace, but she is a spirit tuner. And the spirit tuners can see the kind of like a world unseen. That's kind of also why I wanted to like share personal information, because you kind of get to see the world unseen. You get to see for what it is. And that's probably why she was able to get to the Round Table Hold without guidance. Okay, we have the painting there, but we have this guy. This is the first time we've seen any one of this. We don't have any information on him, but he has his horns, so he's definitely Crucible connected. We all know who he is, but we haven't learned what he is yet. Horns that have been cut. He looks like an ogre of some sort, but we know he is an omen. So we're just going to say he's an omen. We know he's an omen, so I'm just going to call him an omen. That his horns are cut and he's here at Stormveil. Again, probably, some connection to Godric, Golden Lineage, based on where they originate from. Definitely not since this is kind of Crucible connected, not very similar to the Ancient Dragon stuff. Even though the Ancient Dragons do kind of have, they have their own horns and things like that from the statues that we've seen. But let's deal with him. Lion's Claw can flatten anybody. Oh, they're bloodied too. Yeah, you can see that they're bloodied, so you can kind of tell that they were cut off unceremoniously. Yeah, you can see. Oh, look at that! I've never really noticed how red they are. Ooh, you can see that the skin comes around them. They kind of look like they don't look like horns that you would see on a typical animal, at least that I'm aware of. They look like really uncomfortable growths. Having one of these hooded statues again with the what do you call it? The smithing stone inside. Before we touch that thing, let me go get the Sight of Grace. I think we could jump down this way. I don't think this is the too high up and short. Don't you dare. Yeah, we would take damage, but this isn't the right way to go. So we're not going to go that way. Now, do I like the short bow or the long bow? I think I prefer the long bow. Nice, cool little armory. These aren't... Yeah, I think the ones in the Round Table Hold might be gilded. I think those look like the more typical color. Left side chamber. Okay. We will continue that way, but we're gonna end this episode, a little shorter episode, within this library. So within the library of Stormveil Castle, lots of books here, lots of interesting stuff. We found our second painting. If we recall, our first painting points towards, this is a homing instinct. This is at a graveyard, and it points towards the Erd Tree past the Church of Pilgrimage. So to me, that reads, the dead returning to the Erd Tree. Now this one, we see Stormveil Castle. We see the Chapel of Anticipation, and we see the water flowing. So we know exactly where this is. And this is the prophecy painting. Now, what's important about this is typically, I think you would, since we chose the prophet class, we have Flamesling, you would think that the prophecy painting from Catchflame, the Flame of Ruin is the anathema to the Erd Tree, but prophets sometimes glimpse it within the faith all the same. So you would think if you were a prophet, if you had a prophecy, this should be pointed a little to the, this is what, northwest. You think it should kind of be pointed northeast, looking at the Flame of Ruin. Instead, it's pointed towards Stormveil Castle, but what the important bit is, it's pointed towards the Chapel of Anticipation, where our Tarnish spawns in. So now that we have this painting in our inventory, we can look at that. We're actually, before we go pick up that painting, we're going to look at another painting. And I think the best place to go would be the Rampart Tower. I think I made a reference to this when we first found the painting that I'm looking for. If you don't remember, don't worry. We're going back to it right now, I hope. So I'll see you there. And we're back, and I found what I was looking for. So let's look at the prophecy painting again. Kind of like almost directly in the center of the image is the Chapel of Anticipation. But if we look at this painting here, we almost have like it's almost kind of like a 1-for-1. Oh, I could do this actually. This is cool. It's a little higher up, this one. We're not seeing any of the black stone infrastructure, but we're getting a very similar painting that is showing the same location essentially before the Chapel of Anticipation is built and before Stormveil is built. But the Divine Tower and the bridge to the Divine Tower are there, and it's in one piece. So this informs me that this prophecy, whatever this prophecy is, and whatever this prophecy is pointing at, if it's pointing at the Chapel of Anticipation, well, the Chapel of Anticipation was built anticipating this prophecy. Our Tarnish wakes up in the Chapel of Anticipation, and if you've played Elden Ring, or any video game, you kind of know that your character is the main character. Your character gets everything done. Oh, there's that Godfrey painting again. Interesting. I'm finding these all over. I never noticed these. It's a cool painting. It informs me that this prophecy, this Chapel of Anticipation, was built for our Tarnished. This video going up for members is out before Chapter 2. Chapter 2 has to do all about prophecy, and I kind of talk about this stuff in that chapter, and I hope this fall doesn't kill me. It didn't. Good. I talk about the prophecy, I think every prophecy I could find within Elden Ring I talk about, and there's a lot, but they all pertain to like the same thing. There's a lot of different interpretations of it. The fastest way to get to this painting is to go to the Church of Pilgrimage with our boy Radigan. What's up, buddy? Favorite character. Now, isn't it interesting that the painting, to get to this painting, you have to go to where Radigan is. So we go to Radigan. I remember, I said, there's an item over here, and we're not going to pick it up until we pick up the painting. Where is it exactly? Is it over here? Oh, sunflowers pointing towards the Erd Tree. The painting is somewhere over here. There it is. Look at him framing it. Look at that. And what do we get? The Warhawk ashes. Spirit of Stormveil Warhawk, the talons of which have been sliced off so that razor-fine swords could be grafted in their place, with its lord vanquished. So there's a lord at Stormveil. Lord is vanquished. It's not Godric. It's not Godfrey. It's not Radigan. With its lord vanquished and its wings wounded, the hawk perished as it silently gazed at its former home. The storm is a warhawk's cradle. Storm is a warhawk's cradle. There's it's interesting. At Church of Pilgrimage, this is one of the few places we get the word cradle pops up, and we get this warhawk cradle. Since this is here, we know that this warhawk was here and it was looking towards Stormveil Castle. However, this Stormhawk doesn't tell us anything about the prophecy, so we just have to look at what we see, and, the only thing that, the prophecy we know is burning down the Erd Tree. And the only thing relevant to burning down the Erd Tree in this direction is the Chapel of Anticipation, because the only person who can burn down the Erd Tree comes from the Chapel of Anticipation. You are tarnished. And while we're back here, there's something else we need to find. I think it's right over here. I just gotta find it. I know it's over here. It's been a while since I picked them up. Right? Thought there was something. Am I making this up? I could have swore. Oh, is it a drop down? There it is. That's what I was looking for. Okay. That's what I was looking for. So this right here, so this is where we got the painting. Right here is where we got the painting. Pointing towards the prophecy. Okay, this I hope you guys think this is really cool. Hopefully this fall doesn't hurt me. Ah! Sorry. I'll lower that in post. Oopsie daisy. Here we go. This is the way to go. This is the way to go. There should have been a Trina Lily here to tell me I was doing it wrong. But the next best thing is coming up. On the brink. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. Is it this way that we're supposed to get down? Oh, okay, we could have gone this way. Okay. Regardless, if you want to actually come down here yourself, also there was a Trina Lily. Was it Trina Lily? No, the Trina Lily is there. That's where the Trina Lily is. And that Trina Lily looks in this direction. We got some pale-blooded octopus. They have pale blood. We have some bats here feasting on some dudes just hanging out. They can't handle Mimic Fireball. Okay. Let's see. Sliver of meat. That's not what's interesting. This right here, I think this is the first pickup you can get of this in-game. The first. The Bewitching Branch. Ahaha. And remember, we chose this as our keepsake. The tree branch blessed with an incantation of unalloyed gold, the Empyrean Miquella is loved by many people. Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection. Which is right past the Church of Pilgrimage, right where you get the prophecy painting, and looks directly at the Chapel of Anticipation. That's kind of crazy. Who is this demigod Miquella? If you recall, we know he's a demigod because of the keepsake that we got of him. Who is this demigod Miquella? And why do we find his bewitching branches, which allow us to turn an enemy into a temporary ally? Why do we find that past a statue of Radigan at the Church of Pilgrimage, past the prophecy painting, pointing towards the Chapel of Anticipation where we spawn in? Well, that is crazy. This Miquella guy. If these hints could mean anything, I wonder what they could be. Think on that. Before we close out this episode, I want to just, briefly circle back to what I said at the beginning. I think there's a line I say in either in chapter 2 or chapter 1. I mentioned that if you knew that at the end of the story, all you got was the memory of a child cursed for eternity, would you keep going? And this is outside Mimic commentary. This is talking about the end of Shadow of the Erd Tree. We know that at the last piece of Elden Ring content, excluding Night Rain, the last piece of Elden Ring content is, you get Miquella's memory and you get his Circle of Light. He's a child cursed for eternity. I was trying to emulate that by giving you my memory. Is that a good enough reward? The goal, what is the goal of us trying to figure out what exactly is happening in this story? And this is kind of what I brought up with Miyazaki and Martin. Knowing that about me, knowing that about, I try to do creative work as well with my YouTube channel. Does that enhance or does that take away from the creation? Does that take away from the piece of art? That's up for you to decide. Me personally, since I think art is ultimately used as a tool for us to communicate and express ideas and opinions that may not be so easy, or may not, or may be more powerful due to the power of interpretation. I like to have a little bit background information into the author and who that person is. It helps me understand it better personally, and that's why I play all of Miyazaki's games, and I've read nearly all of George R. R. Martin's books, and that's also kind of like one of the side reasons why I want to share that information with you all. The primary goal is to make sure I ultimately to bring awareness and make sure people don't feel alone, but also so you can understand how people can come to their conclusions. Also, since this is the mimic commentary and revealing mimicry in all its forms, I may have let the mask slip too quickly. I may have shown you too much. I hold no regrets for it, but I do feel a little regret in that I hope I didn't make someone too uncomfortable if they were trying to watch an Elden Ring video, and that's not what they got. They opened the chest and they thought there'd be treasure inside, except it had teeth. But moving forward, the episodes will be back on track. They will be more typical, but I hope they're enhanced with a better understanding of who I am as a person, and how that informs my interpretation of this fantasy world. Because ultimately, even though this is a creation by Hidetaka Miyazaki, George R. R. Martin, and the hundreds of developers, artists, engineers who built this thing, you are ultimately getting it distilled through my perspective. And knowing where my perspective comes from could help you determine what you want to get out of this. With that being said, that has been this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. Next episode, we are... let's see. Next episode, we're going to get to the bottom of Stormveil Castle. So I think Stormveil Castle is going to be 2 more episodes. We're going to be able to get through the bottom of Stormveil Castle, and then we're going to finish up with Godric. So that will be the Godric episode. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, next episode's going to be really good. I think these 3 episodes, this is your reward for having to go through all that crazy nonsense. You get 3 really good episodes, and I think this was a good episode too, because we got the prophecy painting. So think on prophecy, think on Miquella, and get excited for us to explore the depths of Stormveil Castle, and then afterwards, get excited for us facing one of Miyazaki's greatest characters. Miyazaki and Martin. All right. Let's do the thing.